Welcome to Omni Power, where we decode the hidden machinery behind the rise and fall of global superpowers. Today, we are cracking the grand strategy of Canada to see how this northern titan is turning its structural vulnerabilities into asymmetric geopolitical advantages. We will analyze how Ottawa is combining absolute Arctic sovereignty, raw resource security, and an aggressive influx of global talent to build an impregnable economic and strategic stronghold. To understand Canada's global power, you must first understand its foundational paradox. Canada faces a monumental structural challenge. How does a vast, geographically isolated nation maintain dominant global influence into the late 2020s? The country spans nearly 10 million square kilometers. To understand Canada's global power, you must first understand its foundational paradox. Canada faces a monumental structural challenge. How does a vast, geographically isolated nation maintain dominant global influence into the late 2020s? The country spans nearly 10 million square kilometers, stretching across 6 time zones. Yet approximately 90% of its population live clustered within a narrow strip of land, just 100 miles from the United States border. The remaining 90% of the Canadian landmass is an expansive, sparsely populated northern wilderness defined by permafrost, dense boreal forests, and thousands of isolated islands stretching toward the North Pole. Historically, this geography was a shield. The harsh Arctic climate made the northern coast impassable for foreign navies and unprofitable for commercial exploitation. The frozen north acted as an impenetrable wall, protecting the Canadian core from Eurasian competitors and forcing the nation's strategic focus southward toward its economic alliance with the United States. In the modern geopolitical era, this historic shield has transformed into an exposed flank. Climate change is warming the Arctic at nearly 4 times the global average rate. The thick multi-year ice that once blocked access to the Northwest Passage is disappearing, giving way to seasonal open waters and extended shipping seasons. What was once a frozen barrier is now turning into a highly accessible maritime highway, slashing transit times between Europe and Asia by up to 40% compared to the Suez or Panama Canals. This melting ice exposes Canada to direct proximity with rival superpowers. Across the Arctic basin, a militarized Russian Federation asserts sweeping territorial claims. Concurrently, a resource-hungry China declares itself a near-Arctic state, aiming to construct a polar Silk Road through these newly opened waters. Canada finds itself thrust into the center of a volatile, multipolar scramble for sovereignty. The strategic challenge is clear. Canada possesses an immense territory but lacks the sheer demographic density to occupy it physically. To survive and thrive, Ottawa has engineered a radical transformation, systematically converting its geographical vulnerabilities into long-term strategic advantages. Canada is breaking the traditional link between raw population size and territorial defense by shifting its focus toward high-value human capital and the technological control of critical resource nodes. Instead of trying to populate the frozen north with millions of citizens, Canada is building an elite, high-tech hub in its southern urban centers. This economic and intellectual engine generates the immense capital, technological innovations, and diplomatic leverage required to project absolute authority over its vast, icy frontiers. The struggle for the Arctic is not a conflict of the distant future. It is unfolding rapidly right now. As the ice retreats, it reveals a treasure trove of geopolitical assets. The Arctic seabed holds an estimated 22% of the world's undiscovered, technically recoverable oil and natural gas reserves, and more importantly, it contains vital shipping lanes that redefine global trade dynamics. For Canada, securing this northern frontier is an existential imperative. If Ottawa fails to demonstrate effective control over these waters, international law will dilute its sovereign claims, opening the Northwest Passage to unregulated foreign commercial transit, naval incursions, and environmental hazards. The primary legal and diplomatic challenge comes from a fundamental disagreement over the status of the Northwest Passage. Canada asserts that the passage constitutes internal waters, giving Ottawa the absolute right to regulate, permit, or ban foreign vessels. Conversely, the United States, the European Union, and China argue that the passage is an international strait, claiming it should be open to free transit without Canadian oversight. To counter this threat, Canada has implemented a strategy of assertive, technology-driven presence. The Canadian Armed Forces have modernized their northern defense architecture under a strategic framework that ensures the North remains strong and free. Rather than matching the massive, heavy icebreaker fleets of competitors ship for ship, Canada deploys an asymmetric defense network that relies on high-endurance Arctic and offshore patrol ships, capable of operating in medium ice conditions to maintain a persistent regulatory presence throughout the archipelago. Concurrently, Canada is investing billions to modernize the North American Aerospace Defense Command, replacing aging radar lines with advanced over-the-horizon radar systems capable of detecting low-flying cruise missiles, hypersonic weapons, and stealth aircraft across the outermost edges of the Arctic Circle. On the ground, sovereignty is maintained through deep-water refueling facilities, like the Nunavik Naval Facility on Baffin Island, and is reinforced by specialized reserve units composed largely of indigenous Inuit personnel who provide constant eyes and ears across the most remote terrain. This military presence is backed by an active legal strategy, frequently submitting detailed scientific data to the United Nations Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf to prove that the country's underwater continental shelf extends far past the traditional 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, reaching all the way to the North Pole. By marrying advanced satellite surveillance, agile naval patrol assets, and firm international legal filings, Canada ensures that any foreign power entering the North American Arctic must do so under Ottawa's terms. Securing the territory is only the first step. The true value of Canada's geography lies in its status as the ultimate global lifeboat for natural resources. As climate change degrades ecosystems, depletes water tables, and disrupts supply chains across equatorial regions, Canada's natural resource endowments are becoming vital to global survival. Consider the global water crisis. Fresh water is rapidly becoming one of the most precious commodities of the 21st century. Industry, agriculture, and urban centers worldwide face severe structural shortages. Canada sits in an enviable position, holding approximately 7% of the world's renewable freshwater supply across millions of lakes and vast, pure underground aquifers. This abundance provides an unassailable foundation for long-term domestic agricultural stability, industrial manufacturing, and massive green hydroelectric energy production. Beyond water, Canada is a dominant force in the global energy transition. The transition away from fossil fuels requires an unprecedented volume of critical minerals. Technologies like electric vehicle batteries, wind turbines, solar panels, and advanced military electronics rely heavily on these resources. The Canadian Shield, an immense geological formation stretching across eastern and central Canada, contains world-class deposits of 31 minerals identified as critical by global economists, including high-grade nickel, cobalt, lithium, graphite, copper, and rare earth elements. Crucially, Canada offers these resources within a highly stable, democratic framework. Global tech companies and Western automotive giants are eager to diversify away from supply chains dominated by geopolitical rivals or unstable regimes. Canada has capitalized on this demand through its critical mineral strategy, funding massive infrastructure corridors into remote northern mining zones, such as the Ring of Fire in northern Ontario. By linking these mineral extractions directly to domestic manufacturing hubs in Ontario and Quebec, Canada is building an end-to-end, Western-aligned supply chain that spans from raw subarctic or directly to finished electric vehicles and advanced semiconductors. This resource wealth extends into global food security. As traditional agricultural belts near the equator face rising temperatures and severe droughts, Canada's sprawling prairie provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, are experiencing longer, warmer growing seasons. Canada is already one of the world's top exporters of wheat, canola, and pulses, and its agricultural output is positioned to become a stabilizing force for global food markets. By controlling these critical nodes of water, energy, minerals, and food, Canada has made itself indispensable to the survival of the Western Alliance. It wields resource security as a powerful diplomatic shield, ensuring that foreign superpowers must protect Canada's territorial integrity to guarantee their own economic stability. A vast landmass and abundant natural resources are useless without the human intellect required to manage, protect, and develop them. This realization brings us to the core of Canada's grand strategy, its system of global talent integration. While much of the Western world struggles with demographic decline, aging workforces, and political polarization over immigration, Canada has engineered an aggressive, highly selective system to recruit the world's finest minds. Canada boasts the fastest population growth rate in the G7, expanding by over 1 million people annually. Crucially, this growth is deliberately steered by a merit-based immigration model known as the Comprehensive Ranking System, powered by the Express Entry Framework. Unlike systems focused primarily on family reunification or low-skilled labor, Canada's model operates like an elite corporate recruitment firm, grading applicants on a strict point scale that prioritizes youth, advanced degrees, language proficiency, and specialized technical skills. This strategy focuses heavily on the technology, engineering, and scientific sectors. Through initiatives like the Global Talent Stream, Canadian tech firms can bypass traditional bureaucratic delays to bring top-tier international software engineers, data scientists, and artificial intelligence researchers into the country in under 2 weeks. This influx of talent has transformed Canadian cities into premier global tech hubs. Toronto now features a higher concentration of tech workers than many traditional industrial capitals, while Montreal has become a world-renowned capital for deep learning and neural network research. This rapid intellectual expansion feeds directly into Canada's national power. The development of subarctic mining technologies, automated deep-sea maritime surveillance, and climate-resilient agriculture requires immense computational power and cutting-edge engineering. By importing the world's top intellectual talent, Canada creates a self-sustaining cycle of innovation. The revenue generated by these high-margin, knowledge-based economies funds the advanced infrastructure and military assets needed to secure the remote northern frontier. Furthermore, this talent strategy yields profound diplomatic dividends. When elite engineers, doctors, and entrepreneurs migrate from developing nations to Canada, they build deep, enduring cultural and economic bridges between Ottawa and rising centers of influence across the globe, creating an agile, highly educated workforce with the flexibility to pivot its economy faster than older, demographically stagnant competitors. Canada is not running these programs in isolation. The elite human capital imported into southern urban centers is being systematically deployed to solve the country's northern geographic challenges. This is the strategic nexus where human intellect directly fuels territorial defense and economic dominance. For example, consider the challenge of monitoring millions of square kilometers of frozen ocean. Traditional naval patrols are expensive and limited by weather conditions. To address this, Canada utilizes its thriving domestic technology sector to pioneer autonomous, space-based maritime surveillance. Canadian aerospace companies, staffed by top international engineers, have designed and deployed the RadarSat constellation mission. This advanced satellite network provides daily scans of the entire Arctic footprint using synthetic aperture radar to look through darkness, heavy cloud cover, and dense sea ice. The massive streams of data generated by these satellites are processed in real time by artificial intelligence clusters in Montreal and Toronto, allowing Canada to identify illicit foreign submarines, track unauthorized commercial ships, and monitor environmental changes with unmatched precision. This connection is equally visible in the resource extraction sector. Operating a mine in the subarctic requires navigating permafrost, extreme sub-zero temperatures, and a complete lack of traditional road infrastructure. To overcome these barriers, Canada relies on advanced engineering talent to pioneer automated, zero-emission mining operations. These remote facilities utilize automated haulage trucks, advanced underground drone fleets, and small modular nuclear reactors for clean, reliable power. This high-tech approach minimizes the need for large human workforces to live permanently in harsh conditions, allowing Canada to extract critical minerals profitably where other nations would fail. At the same time, Canada uses its immense resource wealth to cement its talent attraction strategy. The massive revenues generated by mineral exports, clean energy, and global agricultural sales fund the world-class public infrastructure, universal health care, and elite university systems that draw top immigrants to Canada in the first place. This creates a powerful, compounding feedback loop. High-quality talent creates advanced technology. Advanced technology secures and extracts valuable resources, and resource wealth funds the high quality of life that attracts more elite talent. Canada has built an integrated system that turns its vast, empty geography from a liability into a highly controlled, incredibly profitable geopolitical asset. Canada's grand strategy offers a masterclass in modern geopolitical adaptation. The world is watching the abundant resources of the Arctic, but Canada has positioned itself 3 steps ahead. By combining an assertive strategy of territorial sovereignty with a sophisticated system for attracting global talent, Ottawa is rewriting the rules of national power for the 21st century. The old metric of geopolitical strength, relying on a massive domestic population to build large armies and raw manufacturing power, is being replaced. Canada has proven that an agile nation can build an impregnable strategic stronghold by combining a highly educated, globally sourced population with automated technology and control over the world's most critical natural resources. As the northern ice continues to melt and global resource scarcity intensifies, Canada's position will only grow stronger. It stands ready to defend its sovereign territory, power the global energy transition, and drive the next generation of scientific innovation. The Northern Giant has awakened, and it is quietly structuring the future of global power. Thank you for watching this deep dive on Omni Power. If you want to understand how these shifting frontiers shake up global politics, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Will Canada successfully hold its frozen fortress against rival superpowers? Stay analytical, stay ahead, and we will see you in the next breakdown.